This is the BodPod, the podcast where we welcome friends and experts to talk all things body image, self-love, and confidence. This is the BodPod.
We talk about confidence all the time, but what does it mean to really be body confident? Hey, BodCon, I'm Rachel K. Grimm, your resident hype girl, confidence coach, and host of the BodPod. I'm coming at you live from Ditch the Click Studios, where we are going to talk all things confidence, how we find it, keep it, and grow it. Today, we are welcoming Miss Jen McLellan, aka the Plus Mommy, to talk everything from plus size pregnancy to motherhood and body love. Jen is an author. She's a public speaker and host of the Plus Mommy podcast. Most recently, Jen starred as one of the experts in the BodCon's Confidence series. We know that this conversation is going to be super empowering, super confidence boosting, and just really fun. So Jen, welcome to the BodPod.
Hi, Rachel, and everyone listening. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. Your role in our confidence series truly speaks for itself, Jen, but I want you to give us your 15-second elevator pitch to what makes you the mom to listen to.
Ooh, like many listeners, I grew up with not a lot of body confidence, right? And then I got pregnant and was like, why have I hated my body for so long? I ended up having a very transformative birth with advocating for my needs, and it changed everything for me. I could no longer hate a body that was so amazing. And that has been my journey of just speaking my truth, advocating, and hoping to help create change for people.
I want to talk off the bat about misconceptions that you see plus parents experiencing.
Sure. And I'll say I am a certified childbirth educator, and I've been doing this work around pregnancy specifically, but also parenthood, because I'm a mom, for over a decade now. So just leading in with that my skill set has really been around pregnancy, but I'm a plus size woman and existing in a larger body. I've definitely had just concerns about like how society views larger parents. I think especially in the beginning. Now I'm just like, that's their problem, not mine. It can be hard in the beginning to just be a parent in general. You don't even have to be plus size, but if you have any marginalizations, whether you're a Black parent or an LGBTQ plus parent or all the different things, it is harder to exist in this society. And I definitely have privilege as a white woman, but there are so many layers and so many societal biases that confidence is key sometimes for just being able to walk out that door.
You spoke about advocacy and advocating for your own pregnancy, the birth of your child. And we hear from a lot of medical professionals that a plus pregnancy is not a healthy pregnancy. But you've experienced this yourself. You've advocated for this yourself. What is your take on plus pregnancy not being a healthy pregnancy?
We can speak evidence. Again, childbirth educators. So we can dig into all of the evidence. Yes, when you exist in a larger body, which is that awful BMI thing, right? If you have a BMI over 30, you are considered the O word. And I don't even like it, so we're not going to use it. There is a different view of what your pregnancy will look like, not only, as you said, from healthcare providers, but also from society. But when we dig into the evidence, there are only slight increased risks. There's not one thing that only someone who exists in a larger body will experience during pregnancy. And in fact, when we listen to the news or read media articles, we often hear, let's say, gestational diabetes. It's the one we're all aware of, right? That if you exist in a larger body, you are 4 to 5 times more likely to incur gestational diabetes. Or apply that to anything you hear in the media, right? We hear this 4 to 5 times, and it feels really scary and overwhelming, like 4 to 5 times. What does that mean? 40%, 50%? That's relative risk. So it's comparing your risk to someone in a smaller body, their percentage versus your percentage. Okay, those are just numbers, but what is my actual risk? What does that mean to me?
Yes.
And when we look at gestational diabetes, for example, it's about a 17% increased risk of developing gestational diabetes if you have a BMI over 30. 17 that's not 40% or 50%. And I like to tell people, let's flip the script. You got over like an 80% chance of not incurring gestational diabetes. And it's nothing set in stone, right? Like when we're physically active, it can reduce our risk even further. So yes, there are slight increased risks, but that doesn't mean that you're automatically going to have a high risk pregnancy. So there's a lot of nuances there, but I hope by just explaining the difference between relative risk and actual risk, it really empowers patients, because so often we're in that doctor's office and they're like, you are far more likely. I'm like, far more likely for what? What is, tell me the actual risk. And I will bet you often they won't know that number.
There is sometimes some shame that comes with being a plus person when you are at the doctor.
Yeah.
What are your tips to really speaking in your power, advocating for yourself as a plus person or as any person?
Yeah.
When you're in a healthcare situation.
I think before you even go to that doctor's appointment, do all you can to vet them, to find someone that is, if you're plus size friendly or just friendly in general. We're all part of those Facebook groups, even though we say we hate Facebook. So asking people locally, who's a doctor that doesn't treat you horribly? Who is a doctor that you really like? And then calling ahead, especially for anyone who's planning to get pregnant. Do you have any BMI restrictions? Because you don't want to work with those people. Asking your friends in larger bodies too, like, who do you go to the doctor and who do you like? Because even if you don't exist in a larger body, like if you have a plus size friend that loves their doctor, it's probably a pretty awesome doctor, right? Like someone who doesn't treat people with a shame, that helps to empower people with evidence-based information. So that pre-work. And then once you're there, know that as a mentally competent adult, you don't have to say yes to anything. You don't have to stand on that scale. You don't have to consent to anything that you are not comfortable with. You don't even have to take off your clothes for an examination until you feel comfortable. And not to get too heavy or triggering, but many of us have experienced assault or things like that in our past. And if it makes you more comfortable to keep your clothes on and meet the doctor before you undress, I think that's really important. We are our own best advocates. We are paying for these services, and there is nothing that we have to do, even though we've been conditioned for so long to feel that we need to do certain things. And know that you are deserving of respect and dignity, and that's part of your rights as a patient. If you feel uncomfortable at any time, you can leave. But let's hope that you have the most amazing care provider ever. I think it's good to know advocacy things, but going in with it with, wow, I'm really proud of myself for going to the doctor, first of all. And I'm hoping that this is going to be a great experience. But if it's not, knowing that you can ask questions, you can get a second opinion, and you can walk out that door whenever you want.
Like a lot of people, I have been so nervous to go to the doctor so many times. And something that I know has been really powerful for me is exactly what you said. When I stood on the scale, I confidently told them, I do not want to know the number. Me. Totally fine with you writing it down, recording it wherever you need, but please don't read that number back for me. And I have to tell you, they were so okay with that. They were understanding. And I was so proud of myself. That was such an empowering moment for me because I don't know why, but I was so timid to say, don't tell me that number. But after I did, the power that I felt I left that doctor's office with was just amazing. I felt like I could do anything just by advocating for my mental health because I didn't want to know that number.
I'm so proud of you, Rachel. That's so important. And there's a lot we can do. You can say what you just said. I don't want to know that number. You can stand on the scale backwards. I just have to say real quick.
That's a good idea.
My son went to the doctor's office the last year, not this year, and he got on the scale and he stood on it backwards. So I think he's just been hearing me say these tips and stuff. And it was like, no big deal, right? He doesn't even care about the number at his age. And for us, it's just one number. It's one little piece of a much bigger puzzle. So you can also weigh at home and bring the number if you're more comfortable, or you can say, I want to be weighed at the end of the appointment. Or you can also say, is there a medical reason why I need to be weighed? Or you can just say, no, I'm not going to be weighed today. Thank you very much. So those are all options that we have. I will say another tip for, like you said, being nervous and advocating. One thing that I've started to do is when I'm with the medical assistant, I will say, and this is my personal experience too, but that I have been fat shamed by care providers.
Yeah.
And I'm really hoping that I won't be treated that way. Most human beings don't want to shame other people.
Yeah.
And so usually they'll be like, no, Dr. So-and-so is fantastic. And then when Dr. So-and-so walks through that door after I'm like, hi, I'm Jen, I will say, I've experienced really horrible fat shaming by care providers, and I'm hoping you won't treat me like that today. It is such a power move, but also like I'm speaking from my heart and my experiences. And that's not to say that you need to do that. It's just something that I've done. And the response overall has been so amazing. And I find there's more care and more consideration for how I'm feeling. And it's been a really good experience.
I don't know why, but we go into situations like the doctor kind of being a yes man. Maybe it's just the way we're brought up, but we just say yes. Like, you tell me to stand on the scale. Okay. Like, you tell me I'm going to do this eye exam. Okay. You tell me to change. Okay. We feel like we don't have the power to say no. And so I think conversations like this, work that you're doing, is so important because it reminds us, as you said, we can say no. We can be the ones in charge because it is our body that we're there to learn about after all.
It's the system, right? It's a patriarchal, healthcare is a patriarchal system. We give birth on our backs because it's more convenient for the doctor. It's not more helpful for birthing a child. It's actually not as helpful. You do you. If you want an epidural and you want to lay on your back, I'm cheering you on. But I'm just saying there's a lot in healthcare that has been set up. Doctor knows best. And it's really been the internet and consumer pushes that has made us all realize, oh, wait, we have body autonomy. We are consumers. We are paying for these services. We don't have to go buy this, whatever the doctor says we have to do. With that said, like I said earlier, most doctors care about their jobs and they want to do a really good job. So I try not to go in, even though I have had some really horrific experiences. I try not to go in with my defenses up and my mitts on and ready to battle, because that's not a healthy way to go into a new relationship with anyone, let alone someone who's going to see parts of your body that your partner usually only sees. But I do have anxiety and I do get scared. And I think by just vocalizing your emotions, whatever they may be in that moment, it can be really empowering.
I shared with you before we got started that I have PCOS. I know there are a lot of women who listen who have PCOS or who also are dealing with something that might change how they decide to parent or not parent at all. But I think an underlying commonality that some of these things have is your body making a decision without you. Sometimes that decision leads to not having children out of your control, right? So I want to talk a little bit about that. Maybe we can even lean into miscarriage. I know that's something that you've very openly spoken about. Obviously, all regarding comfortability and anyone who's listening to being comfortable listening to topics.
And just for anyone listening, PCOS, if you don't know, is polycystic ovarian syndrome, and it can impact fertility. It does have an increased risk of miscarriage. It can impact breastfeeding or chest feeding. But there's also a lot of misinformation and not enough diagnosis around PCOS, not a lot of support around PCOS. So really, as we say, that self-advocacy is really important for healthcare with it. I can't tell you, and this isn't to say you will get pregnant for sure, but I'm just saying, I've interviewed a lot of people on my podcast who are told that they will not get pregnant with PCOS, and then surprise, and it's really shocking, like people who go in to marriages saying, I can't have children. I can't even imagine what that conversation is like. And then having a surprise pregnancy, that might not always be wanted. There's so much to unpack around that. So what I want to say is if you've had a care provider that has said you have PCOS, you'll never get pregnant, I would absolutely advocate for a second opinion. Join PCOS support groups, find good healthcare providers. I have a really great episode on PCOS where we talked about helping to level out your hormones, which can help with fertility and all of that stuff. I feel like anything that only impacts women, there's not as much research and money and things behind it to get the help and support we need.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of shame wrapped around it because with PCOS, it's really hard to lose weight. And I know losing weight isn't something that we really talk about, but it's something that's pushed on so many people. And then it's like actually really hard. And there's a lot of hormonal imbalances and you can have hair growing all over your face, and yet your hair's falling out on your head. It is just not fair at all. And I'm so sorry that so many people, I think it's about 1 in 10 women deal with PCOS, and yet it's not talked about enough. So if you have PCOS and you're listening, please know that you're not alone. And please know that you are worthy of amazing healthcare. And that goes for also everyone listening. But you mentioned miscarriage, and yeah, I've gone through that. And so for anyone listening, the statistics are about 1 in 4. And so we're really not alone, even though it feels like it. And know that it's not your fault. I hear more often than I would from people in my community that they were told that their loss was because of their weight. And most of the time, we really have no idea why that loss occurs. And I'm really sorry for anyone listening that has ever experienced that loss, and know that one of the greatest things that I've found out of healing is actually that mental health support around that loss and talking to my partner. So a lot that we just unpacked in a couple of minutes, but at the end of the day, you are deserving of compassion, love, and support, and your mental health matters just as much as your physical.
I'm so empowered by you sharing your journey. I think that often you've probably experienced this. So many women are afraid to talk about that. And as you said, 1 in 4, what a number. Like, there are so many women who experience miscarriage, and to be able to have conversations around it allows people to know they're not the only one, they're not alone, because it can feel absolutely isolating, I'm sure, to feel like you're the only one when no one is talking about it. And though I can't speak to that experience, that was definitely something I felt when I found out I had PCOS. Was all of my friends talk about wanting to have children. And as you said, the conversation was, you probably won't be able to get pregnant, because just as you said, that is often what healthcare will say around PCOS, but there is so much information out there saying that, no, you can. It might be a little bit more challenging. But you can do it. I think for me, hearing that from a healthcare provider, even though I wasn't sure I wanted to have children anyway, took me through the process of mourning that potential in my life. And sometimes we have to go through that mourning for our bodies to know my body isn't going to necessarily do what I thought it could or look the way I thought it would. And that's okay that it won't do that. And it's also okay to go through that mourning process for your body. And so I just really appreciate you sharing that information, because I think it's very empowering to anyone listening.
Yeah. And thank you, Rachel, too, for sharing. That's really powerful that you do have to go through a mourning. Like, our bodies are forever changing and evolving, and we have no control. But when you're given a diagnosis, it is really shocking and isolating, and things that we don't talk about enough, which is why I love your work and the podcast and all that we do with BodyCon, because it gives us an opportunity to realize how much having body confidence helps us through those really dark moments, and also helps us to advocate for, maybe I could get some more answers, and maybe the answer is not what you want to hear, but finding our way through it, and hopefully not doing it alone too.
I think you said something really important there, that body confidence isn't just we look in the mirror and like what we see. Body confidence is having the advocacy over your body. It's allowing yourself to recognize that how you thought your body would look isn't actually what it looks like, or how it would act is not actually how it acts. And that's okay. Like, confidence isn't just our image. There's so many other parts to that body confidence.
Oh yeah. Body confidence for me is advocacy, like those two. And I know that's not something that a lot of people think of, but without having, they're tied together for me, because without having the confidence to go to that doctor's office, it is hard to go. I've been at the doctor's office where I was struggling to breathe and being told, maybe you're just so big that you need to be on oxygen. Like basically being told that I don't even deserve to breathe. So I didn't go to the doctor for over 2 years. I gained a lot of weight after that. I became a statistic, and a statistic I teach. We know that when people are made to feel ashamed by their healthcare provider, they are less likely to receive routine healthcare and more likely to gain weight.
Wow.
is not effective. And so I became the statistic I teach. And so I really think, and I like talk about body confidence all the time. I teach this, but I'm still human. I still go through things. And without having the confidence to be like, okay, but I still deserve healthcare. That is a basis, right? And then on top of that, then you build layers. I still deserve to love myself. I deserve this. I deserve that. But at the beginning, I deserve to breathe. Yeah. I deserve to go to the doctor. I deserve to do the things that I need to do to be a human and to me to be a mom too, and a partner and a friend. So yeah, we are so deserving. But to me, it's more than just, I'm wearing a polka dot dress right now with bold lipstick. To me, that's woohoo, confidence. Yes. But also confidence is, I need to schedule a mammogram appointment because I haven't done that yet. And I need to do it. And I'm going to do it.
Confidence is so multi-layered at the end of the day. That's exactly what it is. I think that is the perfect example. The polka dot dress and the mammogram.
Yeah. And I really haven't made that appointment and I really need to. You all can hold me accountable.
Great reminder to everyone listening. How has your relationship with your body changed since becoming a parent?
Oh, everything. Everything. Just from the things of, oh, my boobs used to be up here and now they're down there. But also, as I said in the beginning, I think I was always like outgoing. And yeah, I was a camp counselor for a number of years. So I'm just like bubbly and fun. But deep down, hating myself and not thinking I was worthy and always questioning my abilities. And I had, and not saying that you need to at all, or anyone listening need to, but I had an unmedicated birth. Like I gave birth on my knees and it felt so empowering and so sweet. Like, why have I always hated this body? Look what it just did. And it took me years to unpack. Part of the reason why I wanted an unmedicated birth is that I was afraid of not being in control of my body. I was afraid of having an epidural and people having to do things for my body and my body being so exposed. So that's like another layer that it took me a while to realize of those insecurities around my body. And then to realize, oh, wow, my body did this. My body was designed to do this and I did it. Like, why do I hate it? And so moving forward, I stopped hating it. I really did. I stopped always dieting and depriving and suffering. And I worked through it. Postpartum changes our bodies, but as I like to say, our bodies are ever evolving. Like I always say, I wish you could go back and tell yourself stuff in your 20s, but I wish there were things I could say in my 30s. There are just differences in our 40s that I don't think enough people talk about either. So appreciating your body for where it is today. I know that sounds like such a mom thing to say, but I am a mom. I wish I could go back, and it's not about size. It's just about, I can't read the Netflix descriptions without my glasses on. And I'm like, oh my gosh. It's just, there's so much about our bodies that will change, that will age. And so just love your body today. Things rapidly change in your 40s in ways that you just aren't prepared for. Perimenopause is something that we all need to be talking about more. So that can be another episode, Rachel. I think that's why I've always been so transparent about miscarriage or any of those things, because I know I'm not alone. And when I started doing the work that I do, Instagram wasn't around yet. And it was just Facebook. And no one was sharing pictures on social media of people in larger bodies during pregnancy the way I did. We weren't celebrating bodies. We were hiding bodies. Yeah. And it was so empowering just to be like, oh my gosh, let's do maternity photos. Let's show off our gorgeous bodies, and our bellies might be shaped more like a B than a D, but it doesn't matter because our bodies are amazing. And just love yourself, right?
Yes. There's no relationship longer than the one that we have with our body. I've been a lot lately, and there are so many other relationships in our lives that we treat with such respect, and that we would never think to say certain things or do certain things to those relationships. Yeah. But we're so willing to do those things to the relationship that we have with our bodies. And to what you said, we can never get a day back. Never. So why not enjoy this day that you have in this body? Enjoy this relationship.
Yeah.
or as long as you have.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It makes me think, I remember in high school, my mom would always be like, every day you don't wash off your makeup, you age 5 days. And I'm like, whatever. And now I have a thorough skincare routine.
Yes.
Something I wish I would have started in my 20s. So it's just, but I think we have to be the person that's like, whatever. And we have to go through this evolution. I can say I wish I could look back, but there is no looking back. Like you said, this is who I am today. And I'm not going to continue to hold myself back or not have experiences. When I get on an airplane, as I'm boarding, I'm like, I would like that seatbelt extender because mass safety matters. And it's annoying to push the thing and wait for the person. I've even tried that. And the plane was taxiing and the lights turned off. And I was like, hello, I don't have a seatbelt that fits me. And it's not just my safety. And I think people are like, oh, why do we need seatbelts? There's hardly ever issues. It's actually turbulence. And there can be a pocket where there's a quick drop and you can move quickly and not only hurt yourself, but hurt someone next to you, like at any size. So it's really important that we advocate and get what we need. And there is no shame in needing a seatbelt extender or needing an extra seat on a plane or whatever it is that you need to exist and go through life and be comfortable. I love it when people come into my row and I'm like, oh, the middle seat is empty. They're both mine. They get so excited. It's like their day. And I don't find that anyone treats me mean or rude. They're excited that they don't have to like snuggle.
Are you familiar with the Plus Travel couple?
I need to be, but
no. Absolutely should be. They're amazing. We've had them on the podcast. And to this day, they're one of my favorite interviews that I've ever done. They are so empowering as a couple, and their love for each other is just amazing. And the experiences that they've both had as people in plus bodies, like around the world, wearing swimwear for the first time together, going on trips together, going to Disney World together for the first time, but flying. They talk a lot about flying and advocating for yourself as a plus person on a plane or in any sort of travel.
Yeah.
The importance of that. And I love that you shared that because one of their top tips was ask for what you want at the very start. Go in ready to ask. There's nothing wrong with that. Ask for what you want. It's just like you said about the doctor's office, like advocating for your body, for you to feel your best, and then you'll show up as your best in that whole situation.
Yeah. You think we're paying for these doctor's visits. We're paying for these flights. Could you imagine getting a massage and someone's like barely touching you? You would ask, hey, can you do that a little harder? Like we're paying for a service, right? So why would we accept something that doesn't feel right or doesn't feel good? We'd speak up if we're paying for something, but in circumstances like travel or the doctor's office, it can feel really hard to advocate in this level of embarrassment. Like I know people are looking at me thinking, oh gosh, I don't want to be stuck sitting next to her. So I'm often like listening to a podcast or listening to Taylor Swift or like listening to music that makes me feel good about my body. I have some essential oils I really like. Don't worry, they're not stinky. I don't stink up the plane, but like little things that I'll sniff just to help my anxiety. We all have tricks and tips we need to use to get through things, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I can't imagine not traveling. I can't imagine not going to the doctor. All these things that are so important that we so put off for fear of how we will be judged, how we will be made to feel. So I think another really important thing that we haven't talked about is decompressing afterwards. Once you do the hard thing, be proud of yourself. Like I have to go to the dermatologist every 6 months for a head to toe because I got skin cancer on my head. And it's intense. Like that woman sees areas of my body my partner doesn't even see because she's like lifting things and moving things, but she's so kind and courteous to me. But afterwards I get sushi because that was hard and I deserve something that I really like. And for me, that's sushi. And I also talk to my mom and decompress afterwards. And like, she tells me how proud she is of me. So do the hard things, and you don't have to get sushi, but just reward yourself with being like, I did a great job. And do some deep breathing, listen to a podcast you enjoy, like this one or whatever. Do something that makes you feel good and decompress afterwards. I think that's important too.
Something I always talk to the women I coach about is self-celebration. And that celebration doesn't have to just be because you did this big grand thing. It can be celebrating that you decided after 2 years of not going to the doctor to go and to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this major thing. You still deserve to celebrate those wins.
I think radical self-love, we talk about like wearing a crop top or wearing shorts, and yes, validating, do it. That's rad. Awesome. Cheering you on. But it's also making a doctor's appointment. Yeah. It's also showing up for yourself. It's monitoring the language that you use when you talk about your body to yourself. I said before, I would never be like, ugh, Rachel, oh God, I can't even pick something because you're so gorgeous. I'm looking at you right now, but I don't know. I can't be like, oh, your earrings are too big, which they're not, they're gorgeous. But I'm just saying, I would never say that to you. But like me, when I was getting ready for this, I was like, oh, maybe my lipstick's too bold. No, it's great. So I took a second, I took a breath, and then I was like, no, it's great. This is a body confidence podcast. I'm wearing lipstick. But I would look at you and be like, why is your lipstick so bold? So we need to stop doing that. We need to stop talking to ourselves ways that we would never talk to our best friends, never talk to our children. And for parents listening, our kids are listening. Oh my gosh, I can't believe how much my kid actually like picks up that I swore he didn't know or couldn't hear. And I talk about like when for those who have scales in their bathroom, and I don't have one anymore because it was so triggering for me. But for those people who stand on the scale, and it dictates how they feel about their day or themselves, I would say pay attention to who's standing in the doorway watching you. Yeah. Say that this is how I'm going to feel about myself today. This number, it's our kids that are in the bathroom playing with our makeup, right? And they're picking up all of these things. Even if we don't think they are, they absolutely are. Like my kid stood backwards on the scale and I've never told him that, but I talk about it all the time. I didn't think he was listening to my advocacy tips, but it's cool that he was. But then I think about what are all the other things that he's listening to that I don't necessarily like want to imprint upon him. All of those things are important to unpack too.
I think that must be one of the most rewarding parts about being a parent is deciding what you will and will not imprint onto this new human being who has a totally...
I think that's a beautiful sentiment, Rachel, but we have no control.
That's true.
Yes, we try to teach them certain lessons, but we're just going to mess up. I think that's what I've come to the conclusion of is I will try to be the best parent I can for my son, but I'm not going to be perfect. So like, I love what you said, and I love this sentiment. I just have a teenager now, and I know there's no control over anything.
But this is why I have you on. This is exactly why I'm so happy you're here, because you give this perspective as a parent who has been through this to be able to say, no, it's okay that you're not perfect. You can try so hard and you still won't be.
You can't go into it thinking you're going to be perfect. And I was so worried during pregnancy because of all those messages about our bodies will fail us and we're so high risk, like, oh, I'm going to not be able to whatever. And then I had a baby that needed a little extra love afterwards. And it was hard, but I feel like it was this immediate moment of, oh my gosh, I literally have no control. I have no control. The only thing that I can do is lay a foundation of love and support for this child, and they're on their own journey. And I am there to be there for them, to be that safety net for them. Yeah. But they have their own path and their own life. And it's really hard to learn that. I'm glad I learned it really early on. And I think it's made me kinder to myself as a parent, because there's a lot of pressure we put on ourselves that is just so unnecessary, because life's hard and we're going to mess up. And if we can't forgive ourselves and keep moving forward, then we're just going to be stuck in that pattern of, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And you are a good enough parent if you're listening here thinking, oh my gosh, yeah, I yelled at the kid the other day and I really shouldn't have. I've done that too. And we apologize. We say we love you. We made a mistake and we learn from it and we move forward.
I want to talk a little bit about the confidence series that you did. Lights, cameras, all the things. Listen, you're used to podcasting. You are showing your life on social media all the time. You are an author. You have put yourself out there. How do you get to that level of confidence, Jen? It's one thing to have the confidence to advocate for yourself in the doctor's office, right? How do you get to this level of confidence that we're seeing you at today?
It's not for everyone. Some people's worst fear is public speaking. And I was reflecting back actually in 2013, I'd just been certified as a childbirth educator. I had launched Plus Size Birth, my site that focuses solely on plus size pregnancy. And I really wanted to talk to birth professionals about the experience of people in larger bodies and how we're made to feel. And then looking, the statistics really aren't as bad as we're made to believe. And there's this photo, and I shared it over on my Plus Size Birth Instagram, of me speaking to just a small room full of people. And my hands were shaking. Like I was trying to hold my paper with notes. I was so scared. And then just this last fall, so a decade later in 2023, I was speaking in front of a room full of 300 people at a nurse midwifery conference. And I don't stand behind the podium. I want a wireless mic so I can be in front of people. My hands don't shake. I get excited if there's more than 100 people. I get sad if there's less, like not really sad, but I'm just like, oh, I wish it was a bigger audience. But the Jen that I was a decade ago wouldn't be able to perform and speak the way I do today. It has been a decade of pushing myself, of trying new things, of messing up. I've had some not so great speaking gigs in the beginning where I had someone interrupt me and I didn't know how to handle it, but I learned so much from that experience moving forward that I was able to handle it different next time. And it is a long journey, but the basis of my journey is a passion and belief that I want to change how people in larger bodies are treated during pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. And that is something that I truly believe in and want to accomplish. And just from that speaking gig, just this last fall in Minneapolis, I just found out this last week, they shared a birth center removed their BMI restrictions, being inspired by my talk. And so knowing that what I do creates real change pushes me to move forward and to do the hard things. Like one of the hardest things was I was invited by the National Institutes of Health to speak about pregnancy in a larger body in front of leaders in maternal health care. People were like, oh, I love your dress. Where'd you get that? And I'm like, oh, these doctors are humans.
Yes.
Would help me to realize, oh, they brought me to speak. I only have CBE behind my name. It's just a small little initial. I don't have MD, but my voice, my story, what I want to say matters. And in that moment, that was when I was like, no more podiums. And when I got there, I asked for a wireless mic because I wanted them to see my body, my size. Something just took over me, and all the chairs had arms and they weren't comfortable. And so I grabbed one of the chairs and I brought it to the middle, this big boardroom, and I sat in it and I showed them what it looks like to be a person of size that doesn't really fit, that doesn't feel comfortable, and how that doesn't make me feel welcome. And it was really impactful, and they held me up on stage for a half hour with Q&A. Like it was an amazing experience. And because of those experiences, because of pushing myself, I don't know that there are many opportunities that I say no to now because I'm just going to learn and grow from each of them. But again, I started with my hand shaking, and that's okay too.
That is such an awesome journey to look at, because it's so easy to see you doing what you're doing, seeing you on the Confidence series, seeing you on the podcast and saying, oh, here's Jen, like she's doing it like such a pro, and you absolutely are, but it's been a journey to get there. And a journey is a lot of what we talk about on the podcast and at the BodCon. And something that I talk about in coaching all the time too, is it is all a journey that you're not expected to be at 100 right away or ever. I think it's really important to what you said about realizing that those doctors are human, also recognizing that you yourself are human and no one expects you to be perfect.
Right.
Like, you're never going to be perfect, and that's okay. Just as you said about parenthood, like you're never going to be a perfect parent. And if you can rationalize with yourself that perfection is just not an option.
It's BS. Perfection is BS. It's unobtainable. It's not real. Like it's not a thing. So let's stop trying to live up to something that doesn't really exist. We can't look at other people and think, wow, like that's perfection. That's what I want. Like you said, we are all we have. And so let's look at ourselves in the mirror and be like, okay, let's do this. I am incredible and I love myself, and maybe I don't love myself, but I'm going to learn to love myself, and I'm going to make that doctor's appointment, and I'm going to buy a polka dot dress instead of just vertical stripe dress. Take those little baby steps, because it's not worth hating yourself. I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned is like, gosh, why did I hate myself through my 20s? Like, I look back and my boobs were so much higher than they are now. And they would I look back on all the things and I'm like, why did you hate her? She was beautiful and wonderful and mysterious. And if you loved her, if only, right? But we got to let go of those if only, and I can love her today.
I think so many of us look back at old photos of ourselves and say, oh, like those were the days, or, oh, when my body looked like that. And that's exactly how we're going to feel about this body that we're in right now someday. So let's stop feeling, as you said, like we didn't appreciate this body now, and instead be able to look back all these years later and say, oh, I was really loving myself then. I was taking care of myself. I was feeling like my best self. I would much rather see that than look back at a photo where, sure, maybe I was smaller, but I was really unhappy.
Yes, I love that so much, because I can look now at pictures of me in my 30s and being like, that's when she was learning to really deeply love herself. And I never wore dresses. I thought dresses made me look bad for some silly reason. And then I had to wear a dress as a bridesmaid. And I was like, oh, I'm cute. I'm really short and round and stuff. So like a little teapot. But I look cute in dresses and I like wearing dresses. And now I live in dresses. And I just think of all the years that I thought I could only wear jeans. And now I'm obsessed with dresses. I'm so glad I discovered them. But so you can keep pushing yourselves in multiple different ways. But at the end of the day, that true advocacy and that advocating for your healthcare, I think lays the foundation for buying dresses, right? Like all those little things, if we can take care of ourselves, then we can build upon that. And then we can do all the other things that we want to do to build our confidence as well.
Give us one insider tip that you share in the confidence series that we can look out for.
Oh my gosh. We talked about was just that making that doctor's appointment, right? I know we've said it so many times, but that to me is the so important thing, is finding that advocacy and finding care providers that you want to go see, right? Not that you're dreading. I know we've talked about it a lot, but that to me is one of my really important things that, like on Instagram over on Plus Mommy, I'll be like, did you make your doctor's appointment? Just encouraging, or the dentist appointment. Do the hard things, and I will schedule that mammogram too.
Speaking of advocating for ourselves, can you empower us a little bit in the bedroom? What is the journey to confidently showing up and asking for what you want and what you deserve in any body when it comes to sex?
I met my partner when I was 19. We've been married for over 15 years. Wow. So we've seen our bodies change and evolve in all the things. But I will say that the sex is even better now because I am confident in saying what I want, like how I want, as opposed to being like, oh, my belly might smack against my legs or things like that, or I'm going to make a weird noise, or I'm afraid. So wear the lingerie if you want to wear the lingerie, or something that makes you feel comfortable or confident or whatever it is. And then you'll get to the point where you're not feeling like you have to cover something or you have to have lights off or stuff like that. But the real thing that's the most sexiest and the most important, I think, is communication. So having that open line of communication with your partner, I think I shared this in the confidence series, but Chris and I would do these things like, it's called curtain talks, shower curtain talks. And sometimes when we had to say something really hard or embarrassing, I would take a shower, he would, and the other person would just sit in the bathroom. So it's still intimate. I guess one person's naked, but that's not the purpose of it. But there's this divider, right?
Yes.
Between you. So you're not having to look one another in the eye, but you're able to say sometimes the hard things. Yeah. And then maybe you kiss a little after and have some fun, but that's not the purpose of it. The purpose is communications. Sometimes it is hard to say, hey, when you're doing this thing, I really like if you do a little different, or, oh my gosh, I've really been wanting to explore this, or whatever it is. Having those conversations, I think, is the sexiest thing. And the more you talk and the more you explore together, the better it gets. Literally, we've been doing it since I was in my 20s and my boobs were up way higher. And he doesn't care. It's fine. Boobs are boobs. But there's been some things. Yeah, it's great. So just communication.
I think communication seems to be the common denominator through our whole conversation on confidence.
Yes.
Being willing and just proud in what you can bring to the table and saying what you mean and saying what you want leads to just, yes, more confidence, but also just a better freaking life.
Yeah. And it's not easy for all of us, right? To say what we need. I remember growing up, I would make my sister ask at places for more ketchup or whatever. So I wasn't like this in the very beginning. Like it takes time, and that's okay too, because we learn and we grow. And so wherever you're at, just start asking and keep growing with that. But yeah, to me, communication is absolutely key to all this, communication and advocacy.
While we're on bedroom talk, can we get a little pep talk to the mom who is stepping back into the bedroom for the first time, ready to be intimate with her partner?
Yeah. Oh, I definitely said this on the BodyCon talk. Lube is love. Be kind with yourself. You might need lube and you never needed it before. Your body will change hormonally postpartum. Yeah. And it's going to take a long time. And things will likely never quite be the way they were, whether you had a cesarean birth or a vaginal birth. Your body, if you went through pregnancy, is forever changed. And that's pretty rad, right? Like your body grew a baby, like you grew a human. So maybe you need some lubricant. Maybe you're feeling self-conscious about how your stomach hangs now. Maybe you had an apron belly and you never had one before. But remember what your body did. And even if you're not pregnant and haven't been through pregnancy or postpartum, your body is still freaking amazing and rad. And just be kind to yourself. And I think, honestly, just starting with maybe exploring your own body, spending some time with yourself, taking care of yourself, buying maybe a new vibrator or whatever it is to explore your own body on a level that feels comfortable. And this whole 6 weeks and you can have sex, listen, I am not a doctor. I don't have that MD behind me, but you can listen to Dr. Jen right now as she says that is BS. You don't have to have sex in 6 weeks. You don't have to have sex in 6 months. You don't have to have sex in 6 years. Or you can have sex in 4 weeks if you feel fine. This is your body. Yes, there's time for healing, so maybe not 4 weeks, but it's not something set in stone. So I just don't want you to feel that pressure, right? That's why I said 6 years. Just let go of the pressure. Find yourself again. Find you, and that's going to take time too, but just explore your body, please your body. Please buy new underwear or new bras. Don't feel like you have to stuff yourself into something that maybe won't fit anymore and be uncomfortable. Like you are deserving. You're buying your kids new underwear when they have holes in them. So buy them for yourself too. But do those kind things for yourself, but don't feel the pressure to do anything that you are not comfortable doing. And when you are ready, communication and lube.
You said you love New York. Did you watch the New York Housewives this new season?
I will say I have an obsession with The Challenge from MTV and binge that reality show, but I have never been a Housewives girl, which I don't know why, but I haven't watched it. Sorry.
Okay. No, I was curious. I live in New York, and so I
so jealous.
When you said that, I was like, oh, if you find yourself here, girl, let me know.
My gosh, yes. Every time I've been there has been absolutely magical. So I love it so much.
But I had to watch the New York Housewives, just living here, seeing if it was and true to New York. And the reason I bring it up is she had shared with her castmates that she had twin boys and her husband hadn't had sex in a year and a half, just because one, they hadn't had time, and two, they just weren't ready. And she actually received a lot of shame from her castmates on that. But I honestly found it super empowering. Again, I have not been in her position, but as a woman in general, having the authority over her body to say, no, I just don't want to. I'm just not ready. Too tired. I don't feel comfortable. And her partner actually had a conversation about it on the show. It became such a storyline, which I didn't necessarily love, because I was like, that's really personal to them and their decision. And they shouldn't be on this timeline that others put them on. But I really appreciated, just as a woman who fully believes in body confidence and, as you said, advocating for yourself and coming from a place of power. I loved that she talked about that.
Heck yeah. Now I want to watch it. But yeah, I'm sorry that she received backlash, but I'm sure there were many people who watched it and felt very validated.
Yes. Yes.
And I think we're led to believe that like these like standards of gender, men always want sex and women never do. Well, I want it all the time and my partner doesn't want it as much. So like all those roles are, throw them out the window. They're a bunch of BS, and don't feel like you have to do anything you don't want to do, because body autonomy, right? That is intertwined with everything we've been talking about as well. So incredibly important. And yeah, postpartum lasts so much longer than we allow ourselves to believe that it does. Like it takes 10 months, not 9, to grow a baby, right? Yeah. Like we're even misled by the number of weeks, right? It's gonna take a long time. And like I said, we'll never be back to how we were, but how wonderful is that? Because our body changed to create life.
Okay, my last question for you. As a mom, I'm sure you are prioritizing the needs of a lot of people first before yourself. We hear that from a lot of moms. Can you give us a few actionable tips to the mom who is looking to prioritize herself?
I think you have to find yourself again, right? So we become really good moms, really good. And we try to be good partners if there's a partner in the picture, right? We try to do all the things for everyone else and we lose ourselves. So what is the thing that brought you joy before you became a mom? Was it reading? Was it a local theater group? Was it power walking? Or what was the thing? It doesn't have to be a big major thing, but what was the thing that you enjoyed? Mm-hmm. And how can you find time within your very busy schedule, right? We find time for social media. We find time for all the things. Like, how can you find time to still do that for you? I think that is critically important. And then talking to your family about why you need this and that it's important. We've talked about travel too. If there's an emergency, that oxygen mask comes on and we have to put it on ourselves first before we can put it on other people, right? So you have to take care of yourself and feel good about yourself and find some form of self-care so that you can be your very best for everyone else. So that to me is really critically important, is finding something that feeds your soul. And believe me, parenthood is hard. There are phases, right? When they are really little and newborns, you barely have time to come up for air. I remember I needed to go to the store to get milk all the time. We probably had 3 gallons. We didn't need the milk. I needed to go, and I felt like I needed an excuse to go. Yeah. I'm telling you right now, you don't need an excuse to go. Yeah. Go to the store, and maybe you go to Target and you walk around for an hour and a half, text your partner so they don't worry, but find the thing, do the thing. And in the beginning, sometimes it's just walking outside and getting a breath, right? But you have to take that breath, right? We know we're told if the baby won't stop crying, it's okay to put the baby in the crib and walk away for a minute. That is healthier than being stressed out in that situation with the baby crying. And it gets easier once kids can wipe their own butts. Like it does get easier. And then they become teenagers and it gets hard again. So because the poop's coming at you in different ways, it's just, you got to deal with all the stuff. Can we cuss on this episode? I don't know, but I think you know what I'm saying, right? Like it's hard. But if you just give everything to everyone else, who you are won't exist anymore. And that's not fair, because you're just going to snap and you're just going to be miserable. So find the thing that makes you happy and prioritize that thing and get everyone else on board with why it needs to be a priority.
Obviously, we know we can find you on the BodCon Confidence series.
Yes.
And what else is next for you? Where can we find you? Share with us all the things.
Yeah. If you love podcasts, then definitely subscribe to the Plus Mommy podcast. And then over on Plus Mommy, it's just me. It's Jen. It's what you've enjoyed listening to. I'm raw. I'm real. I hate wearing a bra. So you'll often see me throw it downstairs and be like, yay, I'm free. Like it's just me. So I talk a lot about that self-advocacy and parenthood and all the things. And then the heart of my work really is plus size birth. So for anything around pregnancy, birth, and postpartum for people in larger bodies, it's plussizebirth.com. I have a course coming out for birth professionals on how to be size inclusive, which I think is so incredibly important. And then resources for parents, even a weekly newsletter on what to expect week by week throughout pregnancy when you exist in a larger body, because our experiences don't always line up with those other newsletters we get. And that's all free there. And just a ton of resources, where to find cute maternity clothes, but really importantly, how to advocate for yourself as well. And then on Instagram and Facebook and all the things, either plus mommy or plus size birth. Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed this whole conversation that we've had together. I think you're amazing. The work being done here is so necessary and amazing. And the conversations are ones that we need to be having more often. So thank you so much for creating space for it as well.
Yes. Thank you, Jen. That's so sweet. I've had so much fun talking to you. I definitely think I learned some things, but also it was very validating to talk to another woman who is coming from a place of confidence and wanting to see those around her feel their best selves too. So seriously, it meant a lot to me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
So BodCon, if you like tips like these, be sure to check us out on the BodCon app, where we're having confidence boosting conversations in real time. There you can also learn more about our confidence series that we mentioned Jen is in today. And you'll see other experts just like her speaking all things confidence and helping you take your confidence to the next level. Be sure to keep up with all things BodCon when you follow us on Instagram at the BodCon and on TikTok and YouTube at the BodCon as well. And of course, subscribe to this channel so you know when we are dropping new episodes, and be sure to leave us a rating and a review as well. We wouldn't be here without you. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you next time. Bye.